Hello there, welcome back to profneel. It's a pleasure having you here. No shortcuts to the simplest tasks of life and career. I joined Taj Rambagh Palace in September 1989 from after working at the Taj West End, Bangalore due to some medical reasons. The difference in both places was stark. West End was class, refined, while Taj Rambagh Palace Jaipur was crass, not at all refined. I mean, Western had some beautiful people. I mean, they had the people with manners, and here were the Jats, the Dogras, the Rajputs, and I did feel a little bit of time to. I did take a little bit of time to adjust to Rambagh, and after waiting for a couple of days in the wings, observing the operations of the Swarna Mahal, the Maharaja's former dining hall, which is now the restaurant, the former dining room restaurant. I decided to plunge into operations as a senior captain. I went to a table and tried to take an order and failed miserably because I was at sea trying to take the order from the guest as I kept referring to the menu card time and time again to explain to the guest what the item he had ordered, what it was all about. I, in short, failed miserably to rise up to the guest expectations. Savinder Singh, the waiter, like all of the waiters who lived off his tips, saw his tips disappearing, and there was a foreigner couple. He, after the service at the table, came to me and said very quietly, he said, "Sir, please don't take orders at my tables." That was, I turned red in my, but he was correctly admonishing me. He was one of the seven waiters, one of the mafia in the restaurant. They're very smart, street smart, but illiterate. They couldn't communicate English, but they knew how to communicate with the foreigners, especially, and they made great tips. The envy of the restaurant. They controlled the restaurant in short, and no senior captain ever earned their respect. I realized I had failed miserably because I had tried to take a shortcut and fallen. But in the post lunch operations, after we closed the restaurant, when everybody went off home to take a nap in the break between lunch and dinner, I chose to stay back in the restaurant. And there I was in the restaurant with my menu card, with a notebook, making notes of each and every dish. From the explanation in the menu and what little I knew of that dish, plus inputs from the chef who was there present that day in the afternoon, to my luck. And with my little knowledge and with my English, I found a beautiful explanation, much better than the menu card. And after writing it down once or twice in my notebook, by evening I was ready. I was very confident that I could deliver it much better than the other captains, other waiters. That evening, I offered my services to a waiter who was known as the passenger train because he was old, elderly, very slow, and often did not make any money. But he continued because he was in service. He got a little bit of salary that he had. He was touched. Little did he know that I was taking him as an advantage, as an opportunity to get my confidence back. That evening, I took orders at his tables and on two or three tables of his, and that evening probably he made some very good money, and the mafia, and especially Savinder, saw our friend, the passenger train, counting his tips. The next day during lunch, Savinder came to me very quietly and said, "Sir, could you please take orders at my restaurant, at my table?" I said, "Yes, of course." And I went to take his orders at his table. And within a couple of days, they started addressing me as Neil Bana. Bana being the term that is often addressed to the Rajputs. I'd earned their respect by not taking a shortcut, but realizing after taking a shortcut to work hard. I'd earned the respect, and they had seen that I had worked hard diligently. I then was their favorite of the mafia, and I almost became a crook with them. I was a comrade in crime with all of them. But I never forgot passenger trains assistance, without whom I would not be able to get that confidence. I always ensured that I went to stables, took orders, and that he got his good tips. I realized without diligent hard work, the best would fail. There were simply no shortcuts in life for me thereafter. I joined ihmpusa from Rambagh Palace in April 1989. It was summertime, summer vacations. All the teaching faculty had gone on vacations. But since I joined in April, I had to work for a year and then earn my vacations, the 2 months vacation summers. So there I was the only teaching faculty sitting in the library, writing notes after notes, consulting the books in the library, making drafting, redrafting, tearing them apart, and taking delight in doing so. I must have made about 1,000 drafts, tearing them apart and writing the new drafts till it met my standards of excellence. I did this every year for the 5 years I was there. Every year I would tear all my notes, and in the summer vacation I'd sit and make my new notes. So I never ever became stale. I never fell short of my own expectations of excellence. I always tried to improve on my knowledge, and that way I became confident. Again, the same thing, no shortcuts. I could have retained my notes of 1989 till 1994, but I chose not to. Now, with my notes in the very first year, second year, what I taught with, I use that to teach my students running lecture, my running notes in the classes, which the students used to write in their record book or journals. Caught the attention of the principal, Mr. Sudhir Andrews, author who wrote whose books were often referred to as the Bible for every core subject: the food and beverage service, the housekeeping, front office, etc. He called me to the office and asked me, Neil, I would like to I would like you to co-author me in my next edition for front office. Again, that was real. That was because, but that didn't happen. That opportunity did not turn into a book because he was outside in a bloodless coup. But that's a different story. But the fact that I was honored with that offer from Mr. Sudhir Andrews, a personality like Mr. Sudhir Andrews, when I was just about 24 years old, that was again because of how when Savinder Singh asked me not to take orders on his table and the menu card. I could have lived in the restaurant, continued working there like other senior captains without earning the respect, going about my daily work, earning my salary, and what little tips I could. But then I chose not to. I chose to better myself. Ultimately, that made the difference. As Robert Frost in his poem concludes his poem, The Road Not Taken, that has made the difference. My students in the must realize and I remember I know that behind my back they used to call me a Hitler, a tyrant, a dictator, a martinet. Because I was making sure I exerted them totally till they cried blood, sweat, and tears. I made sure that they did, so that they realized there was no shortcuts in life very early in life. Their journals, one example was their journals on being submitted would often be kissing the floor if it fell short, a wee bit short of the standards of excellence, or would find it being flung behind my back through the window onto the lawns. I didn't bother. The well made journals with the picture stuck with the brown cover and the plastic cover, but if it fell a wee bit short of excellence, there it was. It was flying in the air and disappeared. Over. They realized there's no shortcuts in life. But they saw me exert myself, and they decided to follow me. Again, the role model methodology. There are no shortcuts. I realized that I learned for excellence, there are no shortcuts ever. Thank you. Embrace the twist to enjoy the turn.